Hi everybody, and welcome to our first tutorial of our program. What I really want to get into in this tutorial is the hows and the whys of blood sugar balancing. What are you doing? How will it work? And just to give you the science behind what you're doing and allow you then to ask any questions that arise. So here's a question. By the time people reach their 60s, what do you think are the stats of people developing one or more of the degenerative diseases? And we're talking about cancers, diabetes, heart disease, and arthritis. And are you one of them? So let's have a look at some of the stats. 80% will have at least one chronic condition, and 68% will have two or more of the chronic conditions. So it's quite alarming that due to lifestyle, diet, people can have one or more of the degenerative diseases by the time they reach 60s. When you start to put the blood sugar balancing principles in place, this is where you start to reverse these stats. By now, you would have completed your health score, which for the health score, what we want to see is a score of 16 and under. And we will do this again on week 5, and we'll do it again on week 10. And by putting in the simple strategies that we're doing over the next couple of weeks, your numbers will come down naturally. Your blood sugar score, again, this needs to be 16 and under. And again, most of you have filled this out and submitted it, and we can see that you are over the 16 mark. Again, not to be alarmed, these numbers are a starting point, and with dietary and lifestyle changes, these will start to reduce. So really what I'm kind of guessing is that people are having low energy, cravings, probably having cravings, that mid-afternoon slump, poor sleep, and maybe sometimes are having too much caffeine. So let's talk about the link between your carbohydrates that you're eating and what happens in the body and how this affects your blood sugar balance. So anytime we eat a carbohydrate, so the likes of bread, rice, pasta, potatoes, cakes, sweets, and vegetables, these are naturally digested and broken down into glucose because the body needs these for energy. So we don't ever want to give up any of the food groups. We just want to make sure that we get the right choices of carbohydrates. So you will see carbohydrates will break down into glucose and they're absorbed into the blood for energy. If we have too much carbohydrates, too much of the wrong carbohydrates, the body doesn't and is not using it for energy, it gets stored in the liver. After time, the liver becomes overburdened, overwhelmed, and it pushes it out into the bloodstream where it becomes stored as fat in our fat cells. So what I'd like you to do now is just take some time to close your eyes and imagine this. You've just woken up. You've got loads of energy. Your mind is clear. You get up, have a healthy breakfast, and throughout the day, your energy and your mood is stable. You're mentally sharp and your concentration is good. You haven't had any energy dips. You haven't become irritable or experienced one single craving. You feel on top of your life. But that's just the inside story. You look good. Your weight is more or less where you want it to be. You're well toned and your skin has a healthy glow. People start to comment on how well you're looking. You feel young, both physically and mentally, and this is how you feel every single day. Welcome to the new you. This is not only how you could be, this is how you should be. And all it takes is 30 days. So what can you expect from following the blood balancing principles? So obviously you're going to get more energy. Your cravings start to diminish. Your mood starts to stable. Sleep becomes much better. The stress that's in your life will probably always be there, but you'll manage it better and you'll feel less stressed. There's an improved skin tone, clearness to the skin, weight loss happens naturally, and then there's a reduced risk of chronic diseases. This is a very powerful visual when we look at what is actually going on with a person that has their blood sugars that are at 16 or higher. You're on a roller coaster without even realizing it. And this is why it gets frustrating from a weight loss perspective when people can't realize that, okay, I'm trying this diet, I've cut calories and nothing is actually happening. If we're not eating the right foods and the right combination, we start to go on this roller coaster. And this is where the extra sugar is stored as fat. The high sugar can damage our arteries. We have low blood sugars then, we're tired, low mood. So we're constantly on an up and a high and a low. And as we start to introduce the principles of eating every 3 to 4 hours, having protein at every single meal, following the balanced plate, this is where the magic happens. When you think of the meals that you're having, are you having 20 grams of protein at every single meal? So let's take, for example, a lunch. If you're having lunch, is it 2 slices of bread with processed sliced turkey? Why can't it be a fillet of chicken breast with a large salad, maybe a jacket potato or some rice? And think about it that way. So how do different foods impact your blood sugars? So I've spoken there about proteins. Proteins don't impact our blood sugars. They keep us fuller for longer and they keep our blood sugars balanced. The likes of protein, and these are all in your protocol. I've given you a small list of protein sources, but lean meats, fish, eggs, nuts, seeds, beans, and pulses. Fats, again, fats do not impact your blood sugars. We need good fats. We need the likes of seeds, oily fish, avocados, saturated fats like fatty meat and full fat dairy products will also have fats in there as well. Do not be afraid of the good fats. And carbohydrates, when we look at carbohydrates, they do impact our blood sugars. And also in carbohydrates falls into certain vegetables and fruits as well. This is in your protocol as well. It's a great one to print off and place on your fridge or somewhere that you will see every day. When you balance your plate, this is where the magic happens. It's sometimes most people will be reducing their carbohydrate intake because the vegetable intake is generally what we have as our carbohydrate intake, and the vegetables normally take over the carbohydrate, but we want to change that. Hand portions is a great way to go for protein, your vegetables, your fat, your starchy carbohydrates. It's a great way, and it also takes us away from that calorie counting and getting hooked up with all those different things that are out there. So it allows us to be more balanced with our foods and have a better approach to the foods that we eat. So as I've been trying to bring in this week that we are eating 3 meals minimum, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But in between those meals, if there's a big gap that's going to be longer than 4 hours, we need to make sure that you get a healthy snack in there as well. Okay, so let's have a little look at I've given you examples of food menus. I'm looking at your food diaries. But now what we want to do is just give you a little bit more ideas of food combinations. So what we're trying to do is bring in the whole unprocessed foods like oats, beans, lentils. When you're going shopping, if you shop the outskirts where you've got your fresh fruits and vegetables, your frozen fruits and vegetables, your lean meats, your dairy, all of that stuff. Keep in foods that are high in essential fatty acids, your fish, your seeds, and their oils. They're so good for mental well-being, heart health, hormone health, brain health. Our brain is made up of 65% fat. If we've got brain fog, if we've got a little bit of feeling low, chances are that we are deficient in our essential fatty acids, our good fats. And try to keep a colourful range of fruits and vegetables in the diet as well. Okay, so what is out? So we're avoiding sugars and fast releasing carbohydrates, avoiding processed vegetable oils and hydrogenated fats. And obviously fruits, vegetables, but these are your unlimited foods. You can really pack up that half a plate with all of those greens and salads. Now let's have extra ideas for breakfasts. In your protocols, you would have seen there's a spring food plan, but I also gave 8 ideas for breakfasts as well as the smoothies. The smoothies are fantastic for on the go. You can make them the night before if you want to prep. They're also a great way if you're cut out, you've nothing there for lunch, they will work for lunch as well. But generally for breakfast, if you're that cereal person, if you're having porridge, it's a carbohydrate. We need to put protein with it, whether it's protein powder or a boiled egg. If you're going for the granolas, I generally will have a pot of natural yogurt, sprinkle with some low sugar granola, and then fruits. Your overnight oats, making sure that you're putting a protein powder in with that. If you're a toast person, this is where we need to reduce the portions. It's 1 slice of whole grain toast, 1.5 slices of rye bread, where you will put nut butters on, avoiding jams unless it's pure fruit. The yogurts, as I said, are really, really good, but you've got to look at your labels, and we'll cover labels in our tutorial next week. But it needs to have no sugar, but generally when you look at low fat products, they've taken out the fat and they've put sugar in. And this is probably something that is new to you. And what we'll be looking at is how many teaspoons of sugar are in the products that you're having. And I'll talk all about that next week. But for now, with yogurts, it should be a plain yogurt, and top it up with low glycemic load fruit, which I'll explain in a while, nuts and seeds. Your fruits. So I'm going to bring you through what is a low glycemic fruit, but have it with some protein like nuts and seeds. You can have cooked breakfasts, maybe 2 eggs, a slice of lean bacon, tomatoes, mushrooms, and avocado. And then if you're on the run, the smoothie, which I mentioned earlier, you can put some nuts and seeds on top of that. Now let's have a look at some lunch and dinner ideas. Now with lunches, what we're trying to do is go back to that balanced plate, making sure if you're having a salad, then have a good source of protein. Think of protein as, right, I'm going to build my meal around my protein source. Sandwiches, you're thinking of an open bread sandwich from now on. 1 slice of bread with your lean protein and a big salad. If you're out and about and getting a ready meal, make sure that you're choosing something that hasn't got a starchy carbohydrate like your pasta, potatoes, or rice, which is very hard to do. And a lot of the ready meals that are out there have a lot of salt and sugar in them as well. So just avoid the likes of pizzas, burgers, anything that's breaded or battered, because think about it, the bread and the batter, it's all carbohydrate. it's really going to spike your insulin levels, your blood sugars. And just think of, your whole grain carbohydrates. Think of new potatoes, brown rice, chickpea, beans, lentils will all fall in under carbohydrate as well. And try to avoid the likes of noodles and sweet corn. The snacks, it's really important that you find snacks that you can be consistent with and become your go-to and are just a filler in between your main meals. I always have a piece of fruit in my bag with about 50 grams of nuts. So we're talking about 10 almonds, 6 walnuts. You could have a piece of fruit with a small cube of cheese if you wanted to, 1 small whole grain pita bread, and half a small tub of hummus, a slice of bread with 2 oat cakes or nut butter. Another great one is to have some chopped crudités, your carrots, peppers, cucumbers, and mix with hummus. Some people like cottage cheese or the quirk with some berries. You can have a small plain yogurt with berries as well. If you're feeling a little bit, you have a sweet tooth, maybe 2 squares of dark chocolate will suffice that, and make sure that it's 70% plus. And this is just an example of having a piece of fruit and having your 4 nuts. Now, again, sometimes people look at the snacks and go, they're quite small. And generally when people go on a weight loss journey, we have been eating a lot more. We have expanded the muscle in our tummy, and it just takes time for that just to reduce down. And our food, as we become consistent with our snacks and our meals, then we start to reduce our cravings and the size of the portions that we want. So some of the drinks, obviously our water is in. We want to be hitting 2 liters minimum a day. You can have herbal teas. Also, out would be the likes of your caffeinated drinks. I know everybody in the group likes coffee. So, minimizing your coffee, making sure you're not having the lattes or the cappuccinos, because that's where the added sugars from the heated milk come in. Avoid or reduce alcohol. So it's really having a look at, the impact that the alcohol can have on your blood sugars. The likes of wines will impact, ciders, beers. The lower impact would be your vodka and soda waters, lime, and your G&T's slimline tonic. So really, if we look at the next 2 weeks, we'll take it in small goals, and using the each week as a learning. What have you achieved and what are you bringing into the next week? Plan is really important. Know what you're having the next day. Eating regularly. I know a lot of people skip breakfast and then they go into a binge frenzy. So just be careful and mindful just to really kickstart your day and eat regularly then. Be conscious of the carbohydrates that you're eating. Try and get some seeds. These are your essential fatty acids. Sprinkle them on porridge, put them in your smoothies. Try to reduce the wheat that you're having. Substitute with oats and rye bread. Think of the processed foods and sugars and think about how you can start to replace these with healthier foods. Think about your water. Minimize your alcohol. Keep up with the food diary and get, this will really start to get you feeling great. So let's have a quick look at the food comparisons. And with your fruits, the safest fruits are all of the berries. Blackberries, blueberries, raspberries, cherries, all of those. You could have, no food is a bad food, but from a perspective of rising your blood sugars, if you take half a small banana, you could have that, or you could have 1 large punnet of berries, and that would have the same impact on the blood sugars. Raisins and dried fruit, they really impact your blood sugars negatively, And if you're insulin sensitive, this can really have highs and lows on that roller coaster that I showed you earlier. Like raisins, we're talking about 6 you could have. So for me, I'd be saying, okay, well, I can have a punnet of berries. I'm going to have that on my porridge, or I'm going to have that on my yogurt. So yeah, screenshot this, or there should be a link in your protocol as well to a food comparisons sheet. And then starchy carbohydrate comparisons as well. If we look at French fries, we're talking about 3 French fries versus your carrots, quinoa, beetroots. They're all, you know, you can have much more of those versus your French fries, your baked potatoes. When you're having your brown or white rice, this is a dried weight, 40 grams. White rice would be 25 grams. So just some of the bread comparisons, what you can have. You can obviously have your 3 oat cakes. Some people tend to go with these for snacks, and they put some hummus or nut butter on there. 1 slice of rye bread, 1 slice of whole grain bread, 1 slice of white bread, half a croissant, half a muffin. Okay, so if you are out and about, you're having a coffee with a friend or something, it is okay to have a half a muffin. It's when we have the full muffin, that's what spikes our insulin levels. That's what throws us out of balance, and that's what puts us in a binge cycle. For me, when I go out, generally, I'll probably bring something with me. It depends. When you get into the flow, you just bring your own snacks, your own things. Sometimes it's just nice just to have the coffee and the chat. We just need to leave out the habit of the what else. And rice cakes as well. Be mindful of the rice cakes, especially the ones with the yogurts and the chocolate. Plain rice cake, make sure it's whole grain, and then put your nut butter on it or your hummus to balance the effect it has on your blood sugars. And your cereal comparisons. So for me, any of the ones that are in a box are pure junk. They've no nutritional value. They're not doing anything for you at all. So I would kind of say try, if you do have cereals, to start to break away from them. Your best is your porridge. Making overnight oats, making, you know, old-fashioned porridge. Like you can have 90 grams versus your Rice Krispies, 10 grams, and 10 grams of Rice Krispies will have the same impact as 90 grams of your oats. So think about what's going to keep you fuller for longer. You know, way you're going to eat 90 grams of oats, you'll probably eat 40 grams and be satisfied with that. And remember what you're going to expect, and keep thinking of your goals, and your motivator is cravings will be gone, your mood is stable, better sleep, feeling less stressed, your skin, your hair, your nails all start to improve, weight loss starts to happen naturally. So actions for this week, just be really clear on what you want. Keep telling yourself you can do this, because what will start to happen is that limiting self-belief. If there's a wobble, if there is something that happens and things go wrong, and maybe you have a binge, don't give up. Just acknowledge what has happened and move on. I'm here to support. I'm really looking forward to working with you and answering all of your questions. And hopefully that has cleared up a few of your questions to start.